Have you ever had that strange feeling that your reflection kept moving even after you stepped away from the mirror? Hello, dear viewers of Midnight Mysteries. I'm Raven Shadowmere, and today I'm going to share a story with you that will send chills down your spine and make you question the reality you think you know. Before we dive into this real-life nightmare, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. After all, you won't want to miss any of our stories that blur the line between the real and the supernatural, will you? In today's episode, we're diving into one of Reddit's true horror stories that has haunted users for years. Get ready to hear the terrifying experience of Sarah, a 23-year-old from Portland, Oregon, whose world was turned upside down in 2018 by an inexplicable encounter with the unknown. Just imagine, an ordinary night, a quiet apartment, and suddenly, the impossible happened. Sarah was about to discover that sometimes the greatest horror doesn't come from monsters or murderers, but from something far more familiar, our own reflection. But beware, this story has a twist so shocking that you might find yourself double-checking whether you're alone in the room before you sleep tonight. And for those who think they've seen it all on the internet, get ready. Reddit might be a bottomless pit of bizarre stories, but this one will make you think twice before looking into a mirror again. So, get comfortable, turn off the lights if you dare, and let's dive into this real nightmare that will test the limits of your sanity. After all, who said that what we see in the mirror is always real? It was an autumn night in Portland. Dry leaves danced on the sidewalk, driven by a cold wind that seemed to whisper dark secrets. I, Sarah, had just moved into an old apartment in the heart of the city. The excitement of independence still pulsed through my veins, but something didn't feel right. I remember unpacking some boxes in my new bedroom. The full-length mirror, a family heirloom, was already positioned in the corner. It had a vintage feel, with its ornate frame and glass that had become slightly foggy with age. I'd always liked it, but that night, it felt different. As I organized my belongings, something in the corner of my eye caught my attention. It was just a flicker, a subtle movement reflected in the mirror. I quickly turned, but there was nothing there, just my own reflection staring back at me. It must be the exhaustion from the move, I thought, trying to convince myself. But an unsettling feeling started to take root in my stomach. I decided to take a hot shower to relax. As the water cascaded over me, I tried to shake off that uncomfortable sensation. But when I stepped out of the shower, I noticed something strange. The bathroom mirror was completely fogged up, except for a perfectly circular area in the center. With my heart racing, I approached it. The clear spot seemed pulsating, and then, for a moment, I could have sworn I saw a pair of eyes watching me through that circle. Eyes that definitely weren't mine. I bolted out of the bathroom, panic taking over. I ran to my bedroom but stopped abruptly at the door. The full-length mirror, my reflection, was smiling at me. A wide, unnatural smile that stretched beyond the limits of what was possible. I blinked, disbelieving. The smile vanished, but the feeling of being watched lingered. In the days that followed, strange things continued to happen. Objects moved when I wasn't looking. Footsteps echoed through the empty apartment, and always there was that feeling of eyes following me. I tried to convince myself it was just stress, maybe even the beginning of an anxiety disorder. I made an appointment with a psychiatrist, determined to find a rational explanation. But the night before the appointment, something happened. Something no rational explanation could justify. I woke in the middle of the night with a heavy feeling on top of me. I opened my eyes, and there it was. My own face, inches from mine, staring at me with a crooked smile. But I was still lying down. How? The face slowly withdrew, floating back to the mirror. Horrified, I watched my reflection wave at me before turning its back and walking away, disappearing into the depths of the mirror. I screamed until my throat was raw, until the neighbors started pounding on the door. When I finally managed to move, I ran out of the apartment and never returned. I spent the following months in intensive therapy, trying to process what had happened. I moved back in with my parents, refusing to be alone. Gradually, I began to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, it was all just a hallucination caused by stress. But then, 2 weeks ago, I received an email. It was from the new tenant of my old apartment. She had found my address on some old mail and wanted to ask me something. "Sorry to bother you," the email said, "but did you happen to leave a message on the bedroom mirror? Every time I get out of the shower, I see the words, 'Help me get back' written on the fogged surface. I thought it might be some kind of joke from you." My blood ran cold, because I knew, with terrifying certainty, that I hadn't written that message, and now, every time I pass by a mirror, I can't help but wonder who or what is really looking back at me. In the days following that horrifying night, my life turned into a waking nightmare. Every reflection, every shiny surface seemed to harbor a hidden threat. I avoided looking at windows at night, afraid to see something or someone watching me in return. A week later, I decided to confide in my best friend Lizzie about what was happening. She listened with a mix of concern and skepticism. "Sarah," she said, placing a hand on my shoulder, "don't you think it could be stress? Moving, a new job, it can mess with anyone's head." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But then, we were sitting in the cafe near my new job when Lizzie went to the bathroom. A few minutes passed, and I started to get worried. I went to check and found her frozen in front of the mirror, her eyes wide with terror. "Lizzie?" I stammered, touching her shoulder. She slowly turned to me, her face as pale as wax. "Sarah, I saw it. In the mirror. It wasn't me. It was something else. Something using my face." From that moment on, Lizzie became my ally in this nightmare. Together, we began to research ancient legends, modern accounts, scientific theories about parallel realities, anything that could give us a clue about what we were facing. It was during this research that we discovered the first disturbing pattern. Reports of missing persons, dating back centuries, all with one common thread. The last people to see them were near mirrors or reflective surfaces, but the true horror was only beginning. One night, while scouring obscure internet forums, we came across a secret group, people who claimed to have had experiences similar to ours. The group called themselves The Reflected. One member, using the pseudonym Mirror Walker, posted something that chilled me to the core. They're not just reflections, they're portals, and there's something on the other side, something that wants to come through. We decided to reach out to Mirror Walker. After days of negotiation, he agreed to meet us. The chosen location? An old abandoned mirror house on the outskirts of town. Lizzie and I debated for hours whether we should go. It was madness, of course, but what if it was our only chance to understand what was happening? On the appointed night, with our hearts pounding, we drove to the location. The mirror house loomed against the night sky, a grotesque and distorted silhouette. "Maybe we should turn back," Lizzie whispered, her voice trembling. But before we could decide, we saw a figure moving at the entrance. Tall, thin, wearing a long black coat. He waved, beckoning us to come inside. With hesitant steps, we followed the figure into the mirror house. The maze of distorted reflections seemed to stretch infinitely. Our mysterious guide moved with a supernatural grace, as if knowing every curve and corner. Finally, we reached a central chamber. Dozens of mirrors surrounded us, each reflecting a slightly different version of ourselves. The figure turned. Beneath the hood, we saw nothing, just darkness where a face should have been. "Welcome," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "You seek answers, but are you prepared for the truth?" What Mirror Walker told us that night challenged everything we thought we knew about reality and identity. According to him, mirrors were not mere objects. They were thin membranes between dimensions, and sometimes these membranes would tear. "What you saw," he explained, his voice oddly echoing, "were not your reflections. They were your counterparts from other realities, some benign, others not so much." Lizzie and I listened, horrified and fascinated, as Mirror Walker described a multiverse of infinite possibilities, where every choice we made created a new reality. And in some of these realities, versions of ourselves had discovered how to cross over. But what about you? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Who? What are you? Mirror Walker was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, he removed his hood. What we saw made us recoil in shock and terror. Where a face should have been, there was only a vortex of shimmering energy, like a constantly shifting liquid mirror. I am what happens, he said, his voice now sounding like 1,000 voices in unison. When someone gets trapped between reflections for too long. At that moment, all the mirrors around us came to life. In each, we saw different versions of ourselves. Some smiling, others crying, some doing things I'd rather not describe. The choice is yours, said Mirror Walker. You can continue living in ignorance, or you can embrace the truth of the multiverse. But remember, once you see beyond the reflection, there's no turning back. Lizzie and I exchanged glances, fear and curiosity battling in our eyes. What would we do? Embrace this terrifying new knowledge, or flee back to the safety of our limited reality? The decision we made that night would change our lives forever. And the consequences, well, the consequences are still unfolding. After that email, my life was never the same. I covered all the mirrors in my parents' house, much to their dismay. I can't look at reflective surfaces without feeling a chill run down my spine. The thought that a part of me might be trapped on the other side is unbearable. I tried to contact the new tenant again, but she never responded. The landlord informed me that she moved out abruptly, leaving behind most of her belongings. Among them, he said, was a full-length mirror that no one could remove from the wall. Sometimes, in my nightmares, I see myself on the other side of the mirror, pleading to come back. Other times, I'm the one watching a distorted version of myself living my life, usurping my identity. And I wonder, am I the one trapped, or is what escaped now free in the world while I watch helplessly? I posted my story on Reddit, seeking answers, comfort, anything that helped me understand. The responses range from skepticism to theories about parallel dimensions and supernatural entities. But one response in particular chilled me to the bone. A user, whose account was deleted minutes after the comment, wrote, "It's not your reflection you should fear, it's what's watching both of you." Dear viewers, Sarah's story leads us to question not only the nature of reality, but also our own identity. How many times do we look in the mirror without truly seeing ourselves? And what if there is more beyond the reflection than our eyes can grasp? Legends about mirrors as portals to other worlds have existed for millennia. Ancient cultures covered mirrors during storms or after someone's death, fearing that souls could become trapped or that malevolent entities could cross over. Perhaps Sarah's story is a disturbing reminder that there are mysteries in the world that challenge our understanding. A warning to be cautious with the boundaries between our reality and the unknown. What we think we know so well, the next time you look in the mirror, pay close attention. Did the reflection blink a fraction of a second after you? Did the smile take a little longer to disappear? And most importantly, are you absolutely certain it is you looking back? Remember, dear viewer, not everything that glitters is gold, and not every reflection is what it seems. Until the next mystery, take care. And maybe, just maybe, avoid staring too long into mirrors tonight. The implications of Sarah and Lizzie's story go far beyond a simple horror tale. They force us to question the very nature of reality and our place within it. Since I began investigating this case, I have received dozens of similar reports from around the world. People who swear they have seen alternative versions of themselves in reflections, or who have experienced inexplicable time lapses near mirrored surfaces. A theoretical physicist from the University of Cambridge, who prefers to remain anonymous, has even suggested that these experiences might be linked to complex theories about the multiverse and the nature of perception. Remaining anonymous, shared with me that he is developing a unified theory that could explain these phenomena. According to him, mirrors might be quantum convergence points where the probability waves of different realities intersect. But the most disturbing aspect is the reports of disappearances. Over the past 6 months, there has been a 300% increase in cases of people disappearing, with their last known location being near large reflective surfaces. Coincidence? Or are we witnessing the beginning of something much larger? Authorities around the world are beginning to take these occurrences seriously. Last week, the US Department of Defense created a secret task force to investigate what they are calling reflective anomalies. What do they know that they aren't telling us? And what about Sarah and Lizzie? Well, Sarah's current whereabouts are unknown. The last time she was seen, she was buying supplies for a cabin in the mountains. As for Lizzie, she has vanished without a trace. Her last communication was a cryptic message hinting at a new discovery, but since then, no one has heard from her. As we delve deeper into these unsettling stories and the unexplained phenomena surrounding mirrors, one thing becomes clear. The boundaries of reality may be far more fragile than we ever imagined, and sometimes, the things we think we know the best can hold the darkest secrets. Recently published a manifesto online, claiming to have discovered a way to tune mirrors to specific realities. They promise to reveal their methods soon, despite warnings from several scientists about the potential dangers of such technology. But perhaps the most intriguing development is this. 3 days ago, I received an anonymous package. Inside was just a small hand mirror and a note that read, "The truth is on the other side. Are you ready to see?" I must admit, dear viewers, that this mirror now sits on my desk, covered by a black cloth. Every night, I feel the temptation to look. Will I find the courage to confront whatever lies beyond? And what about you? After everything you've heard today, will you still be able to look at your reflections in the same way? Or will each mirror become a doorway to the unknown, a portal to infinite possibilities and unimaginable horrors? Remember, not everything that glitters is gold, and not every reflection is what it seems. Until next time, stay curious, and perhaps think twice before gazing into mirrors tonight. In the world of midnight mysteries, the line between reality and nightmare is thinner than we imagine. And sometimes it's just a reflection that separates us from the unimaginable. And so we come to the end of another episode of Midnight Mysteries, my dear survivors of the unknown. Did you manage to keep your eyes open until the end, or did you close them, fearing to see something unwanted in a nearby reflection? If you've made it this far, congratulations. You've just become an expert in interdimensional reflective anomalies. It's not the kind of knowledge you can put on a resume, but hey, it might save your life one day. Or your lives, considering the infinite versions of you that could exist. Seriously though, if this journey through mirror mysteries and alternate realities has unsettled you, don't forget to leave that eerie like. Each like is like an anchor that keeps us grounded in this reality. And subscribe to the channel. Also, activate the notifications because believe me, you won't want to miss the next episode. Lose our next dives into the unknown. Each new subscriber is like a light in the dark, illuminating the shadowy paths we explore together. How about sharing this video with your friends? After all, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to avoiding being pulled into parallel dimensions, right? Plus, the more people know these stories, the greater the chance we'll find answers, or create an army for when the evil versions of ourselves decide to invade, just in case, you know? Good night, if you can manage to sleep. And remember, if your reflection blinks before you do, run until the next episode.